Well, joining me now is James Carafano, Army veteran and Heritage Foundation Vice President for National Security and Foreign Policy. Welcome, James. I got to start with Zelensky there. Obviously, he is committed to getting these planes from NATO allies, as he says, so he can do the work himself. Is that something that can work? Do you see that happening, and is it a good idea?
Well, look, I certainly don't think it's a silver bullet. This hasn't really been an air war. Most of the destruction has been artillery, missiles, attacks on the ground. Neither side has really exploited air dominance to, bomb the guys, for example, like we did in the first Gulf War. So if they had planes, they still face a really very difficult air defense umbrella they'd have to fly through. So I don't think it'd be a game changer. Having said that, if you can get planes to them that they know how to fly, and if there are parts and logistics and airfields to support them, I think that there's not much difference between giving a guy a plane and giving a guy a javelin. You're giving the guy equipment to defend themselves. I think that's perfectly appropriate.
James, is there a game changer? Are there any military supplies, any weaponry that NATO allies or the U.S. could get to Ukraine that would change the game, or anything short of NATO direct involvement? It's just a question of how long at this point.
Well, there's a famous saying, unleash the dogs of war. It's like from Shakespeare. One of the problems with unleashing the dogs of war is you're never sure who the dogs are going to bite. So, look, who knows how this really turns out? Having said that, the Russians have virtual, sanctuary. They can just keep feeding stuff into this fight, and so this is essentially attrition warfare. And the Ukrainians can only fight as long as they have weapons and stuff and they can hold on. So there's one big scenario, one big issue here, which is, of course, if you can't get into Ukraine, then it's going to be very, very difficult to maintain a conventional force. If you can, then it's a question of how much can they fight, and how much are the Russians going to burn through. But the force ratios are still in Russia's favor. I think that's fair.
I want you to take a listen to what President Zelensky said to ABC about the possibility of negotiations with Russia. Listen to this.
What needs to be done is for President Putin to start talking, start the dialogue, instead of living in the informational bubble without oxygen. I think that's where he is. He is in this bubble. He's getting this information, and you don't know how realistic that information is.
So Putin's in a bubble, Zelensky says. I don't see him coming out of that anytime soon. Do you see any hope that there's any kind of negotiated talks or diplomacy that could happen in the near term to try to alleviate some of what we're seeing?
Well, I mean, the Russians would have to change their position. What the Russians have put on the table of negotiating are basically do all the things we want to do to you voluntarily. Okay? So this would result in the destruction of the Ukrainian state. Look, there's going to be the result in mass suffering and starvation for the Ukrainian people and incredible oppression. So literally, the Russian position is commit national suicide. That's their negotiating, opening bid. So unless something alters the military calculus for Putin, and they actually begin serious negotiations, that I don't think the diplomatic track goes anywhere.
So let me ask you this.
I can tell you one thing.
Yep.
If we don't continue, it's game over if we can't continue to get medical supplies and food and weapons and ammunition to Ukrainians. Then it's just an afterthought.
James, you talk about the negotiating position not changing unless something significant happens. Really quickly, there's more and more talk about no-fly zones over Ukraine. That would obviously change things. Hugely risky step. Do you see anything like that on the horizon?
Well, one is it would make the West a belligerent. So they'd actually be a belligerent war. We'd have nuclear powers confronting each other. Two, it'd be very, very difficult to execute. And the third one is look, this is primarily a ground war. So even if we grounded the planes on both sides, the Russians still have all the missiles and artillery. So it doesn't really change the outcome of the war. The war's going to get fought out on the ground, not in the air.
On the ground, not in the air. James Carafano, we always appreciate your thoughts. Thanks for joining us.